How's it going, BlizzCon? Well, welcome to the Heroes of the Storm Battleground panel. I am John DeShazer. I'm one of the game designers on Heroes of the Storm, and with us is David Harrington, senior 3D artist, Mung Song, our lead battleground designer, and Brian Maroney, one of our 3D artists. And today we're going to talk about how we build our battlegrounds, both from the design and art perspectives. And to start out, I'm going to talk about our battleground philosophy. And really, our battleground philosophy starts with our core goals. And the first of the core goals is a clean design. And what we mean by a clean design is we like to focus on one singular idea and make sure we use that as a foundation to build up an awesome battleground. And then we like to make sure the battlegrounds have lots of conflict, lots of points of interest for players to fight over, from small skirmish fights to large epic team fights. And then lastly, we like to make sure our battlegrounds have a sense of finality to them. And what I mean by this is that the story of the battleground is always progressing, that it doesn't ever grow stale, and we avoid any sort of stalemate mechanics. And then we kind of dive into our battleground gameplay. And the first of the battleground gameplay things is that we really like to make sure we have our players complete some objectives, do some fun, varied things. And this can be from collecting doubloon coins, capturing strategic locations, or even killing skeletons. And then once you've completed these objectives, we then reward the players. And these rewards can be a myriad of different things, from a crazy pirate firing cannonballs at the enemy side, gaining an awesome dragon knight to use to push down the lane and do great amount of damage to the enemy structures. And really the purpose of this is to make sure that we keep the battlegrounds feeling fresh and varied, so that when you play Heroes of the Storm, it's a constant new experience, and that you're always feeling like the next game won't feel like the last game. That's very important for us. And then we like to dive into our layout. And really our layout is how we support our map's mechanics. And we like to avoid any sort of specific map rules and really focus on whatever the map's mechanics are and use the layout to support that. So let's take a couple examples. Take a look at a couple of these examples. The first one is Sky Temple. This is one of our largest battlegrounds to date. And as you can see, there's 3 objectives that run down the middle of the battleground. And these are what we call the temples. And these are really good at bringing our players together and having epic team fights. And we really like that experience, but we also want to have small skirmishes. So we made this battleground very large with long transitions between lanes. So when you're in the laning phase, or the phase to gather experience and push your lanes when the objectives aren't active, the bigger the battleground, the more we see skirmishes. And so we made this one very large, since the objective automatically creates that team fight for us. Conversely, let's take a look at Tomb of the Spider Queen. Now this is a 3-lane battleground, but this is also one of the smallest battlegrounds we've built to date. And this one's much different because we put the objective into the lane itself. And so that automatically separates our players. So to support this, we then wanted to create team fight experiences with our layout. And so since we made it so small, the proximity of the players to each other automatically created team fights. We're really happy with that overall experience. And then lastly, we like to make sure we think about our mercenaries. Now, our mercenaries are kind of our secondary objective on all of our battlegrounds in Heroes of the Storm. And they're really also a good example of how our battleground philosophy kind of comes together, because they have a very clean design. They just push and do damage to structures. They cause conflicts as they're placed around the battleground in small strategic locations for players to fight over. And they have a sense of finality. They're always pushing the story, because on successful capturing of these, they enter the lane and push and do lots of damage until answered by players. So now that I've kind of summed up what our hierarchical battleground philosophy is, let's kind of look at how we use that towards creating the new battleground here at BlizzCon 2015, Towers of Doom. What is Towers of Doom? Well, this is a battleground where 2 Nexus Lords are fighting for control. And that's where this battleground is really different. It's a territory control battleground. And the way it works in a very simple form is there are towns that are all around the battleground. And these towns are the primary weapon mechanism of this battleground. And this is the primary way of doing damage to the other side. You use altars that then also spawn on this battleground to fire these weapons. And this is how you deal the major damage source. But before I kind of dive into the minutia of Towers of Doom, I kind of want to go over its origin story, how it got here in the first place, because that's what I really kind of find the most interesting part about this battleground. And we knew we wanted to create something different, something unique, and something that kind of stands out. So why do we do that in the first place? Well, we are always trying to make sure we challenge our players in the sense that, hey, what's the best hero for this battleground? What's the best team composition for this battleground? And so we really are always trying to make sure that the more diverse the battlegrounds we create, the more that question stands out. And so to create something so different this time, we kind of looked at the high-level goals of all of our battlegrounds. And let's kind of just dive into those real quick. All of our battlegrounds currently have 2 or 3 lanes. There's a fort and a keep in each of these lanes. There's also a mercenary camp in every lane and a core. So really, what can we change here? What can we make different and still feel like Heroes of the Storm? And we kind of decided to go really big here and ask a pretty big question. Do maps need a core? And as most of you who are players of Heroes of the Storm know, that's a really big question, because that's effectively challenging what is the win condition of Heroes of the Storm. If we take that out, can it still feel like Heroes of the Storm? And can it be fun? Also a very important question for us. And we really felt so we kind of dived into it. And here's our first layout attempt of Towers of Doom. And as anyone who's played Towers of Doom this weekend can tell, this is much different than what's actually out there on the floor today. There's no cores. There are 5 forts on this battleground. It's also much smaller, and it's kind of got this circular flow to it. The way this battleground worked was the towns themselves were the map's mechanic. Upon destroying these towns, they would then rebuild and they would join your side, and you would gain control of that area. Whoever owned more towns than the other side would accrue points. And whoever reached that final total first would win. And while we were really excited about how diverse and different and how unique this felt compared to all of our other battlegrounds, in the end, it kind of was considered a failed experiment. And really, the first thing was, it was anticlimactic. It started out 100% go, 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 as all the tension just flooded out of the gates when the game started. But then it kind of tapered off. And the game kind of progressed. And a lot of times the endings were very non-dramatic. And really in all of our battlegrounds to date, we want to build up the tension. We want to build up that sense of progression and story and have an epic conclusion where it feels fantastic. And then second, I'm asking the losing side from a gameplay perspective to fight against the winning team, the team who's already in the lead, to fight at one of their towns where they already have a defensive structure. Kind of creates this unfair advantage to the gameplay, and we really didn't like how that felt. So then we dived into the second layout version of Towers of Doom and made some adjustments. Now this is the Towers of Doom that's here at BlizzCon today, and this is the one that we're actually really happy with. As you can tell, we added a fort back, and we brought kind of a sense of 3 lanes. We also repositioned some of the mercenary camps and made the battleground much larger. And really, this fixed a lot of our initial problems with it, but we knew that we still needed to overcome a lot of hurdles. As while a territory control map was really interesting from a high-level concept, we needed to make sure we get it to work and feel like Heroes of the Storm. So let's kind of go over what those hurdles were, how we overcame them, and created Towers of Doom that we have today. First one is our mercenary camps. Now we used our tried and true formula of siege giants and knights. Also there was a grave golem on the battleground. And while this formula has never failed us in any of the other battlegrounds, there's a really unique problem here. Since you cannot have a fight at the core, you can't push to the core on this battleground, the mercenaries had nowhere to go. they started to circle around the map in what we would call a victory lap. And we actually created a battleground where there was a literal snowball. And it was extremely problematic. So we knew we needed to overcome that problem. And so we decided to create unique mercenaries. Now, the first unique mercenary we created was the Sapper Camp. And this camp replaced both our siege giants and our knights. And we were really happy with the way these guys ended up, because they kind of had a standard formula of you capture them, they enter the lane, they push. But once they got into close proximity of the enemy's structures, they would get really excited, charge at those buildings and explode, doing epic amounts of damage. And this kind of gave us what we were looking for, a mercenary camp that was still very meaningful to capture while removing itself from the battleground and removing that victory lap sensation that was so problematic. But then we needed to replace the grave golem. We needed to change the mechanic of a boss. So we then brought in the Headless Horseman from World of Warcraft. And we felt like this was a huge win for us because he fit in so many different ways. He was an automatic art hit where he fit into the battleground of fall battleground that already had pumpkins being littered all over it. And then from a mechanic standpoint, I wanted something so visually different from a grave golem that you had the expectation that he'll do different stuff. And what we did with him is we didn't create a laning version. Upon defeating him and capturing his location, the cellar doors that are kind of obscured by his model in this picture will fly open and fire a volley at the enemy's side, doing a lot of damage, giving you a secondary way of doing damage on this battleground, which was kind of really good for us as we kind of like to add more dynamic ways to push the battleground forward. And then we brought a core back. Now I know that seems sort of counter to our mission statement of what this battleground is, but let's kind of see why, right? We ended up challenging our initial question. Instead of it being, do battlegrounds need cores, really, we were hunting for, can we change its win condition? Can we make it feel really different on how you do the damage to the core? And the core did a lot of good things for us. We were looking for a sense of progression. As the point totals in the first battleground felt very lackluster, we knew we needed to kind of bring that epicness back into the battleground. So when you look at a core and it's taking a lot of damage and you see its health total and you see it's dropping, or yours is really healthy, you have a strong sense of where you are in the battleground, how well you're progressing. And that really gave us something that we were missing, and it was very meaningful for us. And then we also then added altars. And this is kind of fixing that second problem I talked about when I said the first battleground had some issues. These are placed on neutral territories or neutral positions along the battleground. And I'm not asking you to fight in any sort of defensive structure. Instead, hey, this is where, if you want to stop them from firing those weapons, capture these altars. And really the essence of Towers of Doom is gain control of the towns. These are your primary weapons. Capture these altars, and then release those weapons onto your opponent's core, giving us a hybrid territory control battleground that we're very happy with today. Now, while I've kind of talked about our battleground philosophy and then how we used it towards creating Towers of Doom, there's still one more element missing, and that is how we created the art for Towers of Doom. And David Harrington's going to go over that into heavy detail after this amazing video.
All right. I guess the video is not working. Oh, there we go. All right. So hey guys, how's it going? I'm David Harrington, Senior 3D Artist on Heroes of the Storm. And I'm here to talk to you guys about Towers of Doom. Now, Towers of Doom is the only thing we could possibly call this battleground because we pack so much awesome stuff into it. It's got this dark, gothic, Victorian theme going on. It's got a little bit of a Halloween vibe sprinkled in there, and it's a battleground we've always wanted to do for a very long time. We just never really had the opportunity to do it. But here it is, your first in-depth look at the art of Towers of Doom here at BlizzCon 2015. So during this presentation, I'm going to be going into a number of different topics. Firstly, what makes the art of Towers of Doom different? What makes it unique from other battlegrounds? And why is that important to constantly be bringing you guys a variety of different battlegrounds with different art styles? We really feel that it can be super boring to play on the same map, the same environment over and over. So we want to bring you as much diversity in the battlegrounds as we possibly can. This just makes the game a hell of a lot more fun and a lot more interesting to look at overall. Secondly, I'm going to be going over kind of what was the process of creating this world? What were some of the challenges we faced? And how did some of the working around these adversities actually make the art better as a result of facing these challenges? And then lastly, we'll be going over kind of some of the concept art and visual development and behind the scenes look at some of the 3D sculptures we used to create the art of Towers of Doom. So let's check it out. So mood was a very important thing to get right on Towers of Doom. Mood is kind of the emotions you feel or kind of just the overall takeaway from the experience of going into one of these environments. Now we have a couple different tools as artists that we use to create mood. The first tool we use is color. Now, color can be a very powerful tool, a very emotional tool that we can use to sway the way people feel about things, just based off the colors we choose. So for instance, on Towers of Doom, we use a lot of cool tones, a lot of purples and blues on the outsides of structures, in the lanes, and in the more ambient atmospheric environment pieces in this battleground. And this makes it just feel cold outside. It's a little bit wet, damp, and just kind of creepy and unsettling. While on the inside of these structures, we use a lot of warm tones, like pumpkin oranges, a lot of yellows, a lot of things that just make you think of candlelight or incandescence. It really makes it feel warm on the inside of these structures. Now this juxtaposition between the warm tones and the cool tones just make the whole environment a lot more believable and a lot more immersive overall. And that's pretty cool. So the second tool we'll use is design. Now, we designed the architecture in Towers of Doom to be this tall, gothic, foreboding structures with a lot of, dark iron and spikes on it. We just wanted this stuff to feel menacing and just a little bit evil overall. And we really liked the way that felt, because it felt like if you went up and stood on one of these structures or tried to lean against it, you might be kind of like stabbed by one of the spikes or scuffed up by one of those rusty chains. And that was something we wanted to push throughout the whole design of this battleground, so it felt a little bit, creepy and unsettling like we wanted. So the last thing we did was we used texture pretty heavily. Now texturing can be easily dismissed as kind of the overall roughness or smoothness of a surface. But in reality, texturing can go a long way in kind of creating a sense of history and story to an area. So you notice on Towers of Doom, we used a lot of ancient stones, a lot of dilapidated wood that's been weathered over time. And we used a lot of things that just are oxidized and rusted to make it feel like this town is ancient. It's super old and it has its own history to it. Now this is cool because it can really make it feel like this town is believable. This environment is very immersive, and you really feel like you're there when you start playing on this battleground. So we learned pretty early on that it would be easy to make a battleground that was dark and creepy and kind of moody like we wanted, but it wouldn't be easy to make a battleground that was dark and a little bit charming. So we got some feedback pretty early on from design. There was people pretty much just coming up to my desk and being like, hey man, I don't want to play on this battleground. This battleground's kind of depressing me. It's straight up bumming me out, dude. And that kind of wasn't the feeling we wanted to get. That wasn't the feedback we wanted to hear. So we had a couple different options we could try. We could A, try to just manually cheer the designers up through a series of facetious compliments. You guys are the greatest designers. Or B, we could try to find a way to infuse a little bit more charm, a little bit more life, and a little bit more of a whimsical style into the art we were creating. And that's kind of what we did. So So what you're looking at here is a series of visual development sketches that we went through to try to find a little bit more of that fun, a little bit more of that life and character we wanted to pump into the art. So you notice the trees all have very stylized shapes, a lot of really whimsical structures, and all the buildings have a wonk or a taper to them, and all the colors just pop. And we loved the way this felt, and this became one of the more defining features of creating art for Towers of Doom, where we had this kind of dark and a little bit charming vibe going on. So you'll notice the jack-o'-lanterns have very expressive faces, all the trees have a very distinct style, and all the structures have a really interesting shape language. And this is the thing that we really want to get across when we create Towers of Doom. And this is, I think, when you play on this battleground, one of the things that really you see the most. So the bell towers are a very important structure on Towers of Doom. They're the main weapon that you use to attack the enemy core. And also, they're not entirely destructible. So when you go to destroy one of these towers, it will explode, but it'll actually be reformed into your team's allegiance. Now this left us with a pretty puzzling challenge on the art side. How do you display something that can still attack the enemy core, but doesn't exist yet? And that led us to the idea of the ghost tower. So the ghost tower is the idea that this tower is destroyed, but it's being reformed into your team's allegiance. Now it can still attack the enemy core while it's in this ghost form. It can't attack enemy units or heroes until it's been completely reformed into a fully functional, fleshed out bell tower. Once it is, it can start attacking enemy units and heroes, and it's ready to rock. Now we love the way this felt because it really tied in with the story and the theme of the battleground really well. And it really played against those structures really interestingly. So each of the 6 towns on Towers of Doom has a very unique character to it and a very unique style. And we thought it'd be interesting to play that up on the art side with these large objective structures. So for instance, the Armory Town has this large armory structure with the big swords and the shield on it and the giant stones. It really made it feel like this town is just more fortified than the others. The Farming Town has a large barn structure, a bunch of hay bales, and a big windmill. And then the Blacksmith Town has a large blacksmith structure with billowing smokestacks, a bunch of machinery that make it feel like there's a lot of cool blacksmith stuff going on, and a whole lot of molten metal. And we love the way this felt because it really felt like whenever you saw one of these structures, you knew exactly where you were on the battleground, exactly what you needed to do, and exactly where you needed to go. And this became a really defining feature of Towers of Doom. So you may notice when you're playing on Towers of Doom, there's 2 distinct stylings to the architecture. One is uniquely Raven themed, with the big raven on it, the big scythes and the skulls going on, and the other is uniquely Reaper themed, with a big hooded figure. There's a very distinct reason for that. It's because when you're playing on Towers of Doom, you're actually assisting one of these 2 Dark Nexus Lords in taking over the Crimson Keep, which is the town at the center of Towers of Doom. Now, one of these dark spirits you might remember from Cursed Hollow, and he's the Raven Lord. Now, he's a dark warlock spirit who's been in this realm for a very long time, but his power is beginning to fade over time. And as his power fades, he's giving way to this other dark spirit called the Gravekeeper. Now, as a player, you're kind of thrust into the middle of this and assigned one of these guys to try to champion their cause and fight for their armies. Now, that's pretty interesting because this is a battleground where both of these spirits are actually empowering your forces, and they're actually making your armies become stronger, and they're upgrading your towns at a certain point. And this became something that we really loved about Towers of Doom, and it's really one of the defining features of the map. So that's pretty much going to do it for the in-depth look we're going to do at the story and art of Towers of Doom. Now, we had an absolute blast making this battleground. It's one of our favorites, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. If you get a chance today, definitely check it out and send us feedback. We love hearing from you guys. We love hearing from the community, and your feedback is absolutely essential to our development process. So with that, I'm going to be passing it off to Mung, and he's going to be introducing you guys to the Heroes of the Storm arena right after this video.
Wow, such an exciting team fight, such an awesome game. Hello everybody, my name is Meng Song. I'm the lead battleground designer on Hero Storm team. What you just saw in the video is a new game mode we are working on. We call it Arena. In this BlizzCon, we have 2 Arena battlegrounds to show you. In the future, we will do many more things with Arena. But today, in this panel, I will focus more on the specific battleground that you can already play right now. Heroes is always evolving. We are always finding new ways to make this game challenging and fun for our players. We have many great ideas about Battleground. Some of them are very different from anything we had done before. Actually, they are so different that we don't feel they fit in our quick match or ranked play mode. We need a place for this idea to live, a place we are not restricted by the current game meta. That's why we decided to create this new game mode. So what is Arena? Arena is a set of battleground featuring random hero selection. It focuses on fast-paced, intense action around a single objective with unique winning conditions. It's something quick and easy for players to jump into, but it requires great adaptation and flexibility to truly master. While working on Arena mode, we have the following goals in mind. Heroes already have a lot more action than other games in this genre, but we want Arena mode to be packed with even more action. We all love the 20-minute game time, but can we make it even shorter? How about 10 minutes, even 5 minutes? One goal we set for Arena mode is to push players outside their comfort zone. We want something competitive and intense, something players can now prepare for. We want our players to be more creative in this mode. To achieve these goals, the first thing we tried is all random. Many of you might be already pretty familiar with all random mode. So basically, the game picks a random hero for each player. Players don't know what hero they are going to play, and they don't know what team composition they are going to have. We all love the random web, as it pushes players to try out more heroes. But after some playtest, we quickly realized the problem of this mode. Players need some control. They don't like to be completely at this mercy of this random character assignments. We decided we want to give players some room to make meaningful choices. We went through a couple iterations on hero selection screen to solve this problem. And this is what we end up with. We all like it a lot. There are 4 hero archetypes in this game. They are warrior, assassin, specialist, and support. Arena system has a hero archetype for each player and pick randomly 3 heroes based on that archetype. Players then choose among those 3 heroes. To make things more interesting, we allow duplicate heroes within the same team. Suddenly, players are facing some really interesting choices here. Should I pick Nova with my teammates to form a 3 Nova team? If you think 1 Nova is not deadly enough, let's try 3. Or should we pick the 2 Illidents combo with Thrall to form a fearsome melee assassin team? Or should we pick the 2 Zeratus to lock down our opponents with the double Void Prison? There are so many choices here, and each of them has its own pros and cons. Arena system pick a random team composition based on the 4 hero archetypes. In this example, the team contains 4 assassins and 1 specialist. This is another example. This one contains 3 specialists, 1 assassin, and 1 support. You can see we break the normal team composition rule here. a team is not guaranteed to have a warrior or a support. However, we make sure the teams are always mirrored by hero archetypes. So in this example, you are sure the other team also has 3 specialists, 1 assassin, and 1 support, with almost limitless possible combinations. The team fight in arena mode is crazy, unexpected, and fun. It also means the knowledge you learned from normal game mode might not always apply here. To make things even crazier, there's a small chance we do something like this. We gave 10 of the same heroes to players. In this example, it's 10 Sanyas. What would we do with 10 Sanyas? Should we all pick Leap to stun lock our opponents? Or should we all go Rise of a Berserker to maximize our damage output? And how would you handle 10 Sergeant Hammers? New question come up, you have to answer. How do you break enemy's siege line if they all sieged us? With 5 Sergeant Hammer, you will have 15 mines. How do you place it more strategically in this mode? Trust me, a game with 10 Sergeant Hammer is very different from anything you see in a game with only 1 Sergeant Hammer. And how about this? 10 Johannas. Well, this one didn't work very well. In our internal playtest, this game lasted 30 minutes, and we still couldn't deal any damage to each other's core. We have to call it. On the plus side, we learn a valuable lesson from here. We know we need to add some limitations, some rules to our random team composition. So the first thing we did is to remove some heroes from this 10x hero mode. Heroes like Murden, like Johanna, or support like Medic, they don't deal a lot of damage and just drag the game long. We also added rules in other games so that a game cannot have more than 2 warrior or more than 2 support. The next goal we set for arena mode is to focus player on action. You all remember the intense team fight around a Raven tribute or a temple event on Scan Temple. Arena mode captures those exciting moments and condense them into a small battleground around a single objective. This is one of the arena battleground, Garden Arena. Your goal here is to collect 100 seeds. A big garden terror spawns at the center of the map, casting its AoE stun and roots, while dropping seeds up and taking damage. Your team needs to focus on dealing damage to this garden terror, collect seeds dropped, dodging its AoE CC abilities, while fighting against the other team who's doing the same. From the start of the game, it's a non-stop, intense team fight which lasts around 5 minutes. Another thing we did to make sure players focus on action is to remove leveling and talents from this mode. You can see in this screenshot at the top, players start at level 10 and do not level up. They also don't have a talent. The only thing they need to choose are the 2 heroic abilities at the beginning of the game. By removing talent and leveling, we gain the following benefits. It greatly lowered the learning curve for players to play new heroes. Since players don't have control to choose which hero they are going to play, this is very important to us. Players don't need to pick talents, especially during combat, so they can focus more on moment-to-moment action. Without leveling, a team can never fall behind. We are sure their power level always stays the same. The next thing we did to make sure players focus on action is to reduce the map size. This is one of the Garden Arena level. You can see here the layout is pretty compact and simple. It takes almost no time to travel from your base to the center of the map. In this mode, we also reduce the hero respawn time to 15 seconds. Combining the short respawn time and the small map size, dying in arena mode no longer a big deal. You can hop back to action almost right away. Make this feel like playing a first-person shooter game in Hero of Storm. In this BlizzCon, we have a 2 arena mode battleground for you to play. I hope you all enjoy playing them. But we are not done here. We are doing many more with the arena. We are already working on new arena battleground. We are adding more mechanics. Mechanics don't work well in normal game mode. Mechanics like capture the flag, like a payload, or even more crazy ideas. Anything is possible here. Anything we can think of, anything you can think of could live here. Heroes already break many rules in this genre. We are not afraid to break even more rules. In the end, our goal is to make this mode fresh and fun for all our players. I have spent quite a amount of time talking about the design behind the arena, but that's only the half of the story. Next up is Brian to talk about making art for arena.
Awesome. Thank you, Mung. How's it going, BlizzCon? My name is Brian Maroney. I'm a 3D environment artist for Heroes of the Storm, and today I'm here to present the art of arena. Before I begin, let me ask you all a quick question. How many of you have had the opportunity to play Heroes this BlizzCon? Yes. All right. Well, for those of you who haven't, don't worry. This is your second chance at a BlizzCon sneak peek of the arenas. So let's get started. I have 2 new arena battlegrounds to show you guys today. The Gardens Arena and the Temple Arena. Arena is best 2 out of 3. So we've designed these 3 unique map layouts to test your skills and your abilities on. Each one of these arena layouts has been designed to be quite a bit smaller than any of the maps that we've given you in the past, which means they lend themselves really well to fast, intense gameplay. I mean, think back on what Mung just said. Imagine having 10 hammers, or 10 Sonyas, or 10 Novas on a really tiny map. Y'all can imagine how crazy that gameplay is, and it's so much fun. These maps have also been designed to have a unique aesthetic that help differentiate themselves from the other 2. So the moment you get in one of these maps, you know exactly which one you're on, so you can start to devise a game plan with your team, help you guys win. All right, this is a look at our first Gardens Arena battleground. We like to call this one the daytime arena map. And we really wanted to take this one into a new direction, like a tournament ground or a Renaissance fair. The first thing that I want to point out are those grandstands on the left with the spectators. You know, this is one of the first things we added to this map to really push the idea that you were in the tournament grounds of the King's Crest Keep instead of the gardens like we've done on previous maps. On those maps, you may have noticed white picket fences and rows of hedges and gardeners tending to the gardens of the keep. But you're not going to find that on this map. Instead, you're going to find things that really feel like a Renaissance fair or like a grand tournament. So you'll see spectators sitting around campfires, sitting around their tents, enjoying each other's company, eating, drinking, and just having a good time. But honestly, that wasn't enough to really push the idea that this was a Renaissance fair for us or a grand tournament in the keep. So at the bottom of the screen in a few seconds, you're going to notice we added a jousting arena. You know, knights are going to be doing passes with lances, cracking those lances on each other, and the spectators are going to cheer for them. On the other side of the map, you'll notice we added fighting pits. 2 knights are queued up, ready to go toe-to-toe with greatswords and fight, and the spectators are going to be cheering for them. We really wanted this to feel like you were in a Renaissance fair and feel like you were in the tournament grounds, and so we thought that all of these really took you to that new space. Let's take a closer look at the spectators now that I just mentioned. Now, these aren't just any spectators. These are Heroes of the Storm spectators. These guys are epic, but they might not look so epic just sitting, fidgeting around in their seats, kind of tossing a hand up in the air every once in a while. But these guys are waiting for something to cheer for. And you have to be that person, that player, or that team to really give them something to cheer for. So what does it look like when you do? Well, if you get a kill or two, these guys are going to get pretty stoked. You're going to get a nice little golf clap with a few hands in the air and a nice cheer. And that's going to feel pretty good getting that kill and hearing that cheer, and it's going to really push you to want to get more. So what does it look like if you get more? If you get 3 or 4 kills, these guys are going to get way more excited. Half the crowd is going to be standing up. A lot more of them are going to have their hands in the air, and they're going to start cupping their hands in front of their mouths. So you're going to hear a louder cheer. And that's going to feel pretty epic. And you're going to be like, well, I don't want to stop at 3 or 4. I want to get that team wipe, that multi-kill. So what does it look like when you get the multi-kill? Well, every single one of these spectators, is going to be standing out of their seat now with their hands in the air and their hands cupped in front of their mouths. So you're going to get the loudest cheer possible out of these guys. And hearing that is really going to push you. And let me be the first to say that it feels pretty awesome being that player or that team and thinking, damn, that was me, I did that. Or we did that as a team and we got those kills, and you're hearing the spectators cheer for you. It's such an adrenaline-filled experience, it's awesome. But we didn't want to stop there. We added one more really awesome thing to these guys, and I'm really excited to show you. And that's the wave. I can't remember going to a baseball game as a kid, with my family, Angel Stadium, and not seeing the wave go around 16 or 17 times. And it's so much fun to be a part of, and we had so much fun creating this, we felt like we really had to give it to you guys. But that's really all I'm going to tell you about the wave. It's going to be up to you guys to figure out how to do it. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, Easter egg. This is our second map. We like to call this one the Nighttime Gardens Arena map. Now, the nighttime phase of Gardens of Terror was such an important part of that map's mechanic that it just felt natural to make this our second arena battleground. I wanted to point out the spectators again. They're about half capacity now. These guys have been sitting at the tournament all day watching, and they're getting tired. So you're really not going to notice a whole lot of spectators in the grandstands on this map. Instead, you're going to see them sitting around the campfires, around their tents, really enjoying their company again and just kind of hanging out, having a good time. You won't notice the jousting arena on this map, and you won't notice the fighting pits with the 2 knights going toe-to-toe with great swords. Instead, on the bottoms of the map, you're just going to see more of those guys sitting around the campfire, kind of winding down for the night. Another really cool theme that I want to point out with this map are the plant terrors. If you remember back to Gardens of Terror, during the night phase, the terrors come out, tentacles and man-eater plants, snapping at fireflies. And that was a really cool theme for that map. And we really wanted to push it with this one to really make it feel a lot more energetic and a lot more alive at night. This is our third Gardens Arena battleground. And I like to call this one the Underground Battleground. And this concept was largely inspired by a recent science fiction film that came out a few years ago, featuring a certain breed of incandescent plant that illuminates themselves at night. And that glowing element, while beautiful, is something that we really wanted to impart into this map. All right, guys, this is our Underground Gardens Arena. And I'm really excited to show this one too, because it's arguably my favorite. And something that I want to point out is something that we were very inspired by from the Diablo team, and that's the really large silhouetted foreground elements, like those cave walls with roots hanging off of them and bats hanging off of those. It's something that's brand new to Heroes of the Storm, and I think that it really adds something to this map, this claustrophobic feel. You're just like in this cave and it's dark and damp. And if you head to the back of the map where that trophy cup in the splitting waterfalls was, you'll start to see stalactites with water dripping off of them and bats hanging and flying around those too. We really wanted to get away from the idea that this was in any way connected to the Haunted Mines, a map that we had previously given you. We didn't want that man-made cave feel. We really wanted to push it to a new place. So we yanked all those things out, the train tracks, the wooden beams and the steel beams. Instead, we replaced those with the underground rivers and the pools that you're seeing up at the top of the map near the cup. And we really thought, wow, this is beautiful. And we're transporting you to a place that we've never seen or taken you to before. And I thought that was really awesome. Now, I could probably talk about this map for another 30 or 45 minutes, but I'm going to move on to the temple arenas now. And these are our 3 temple arena maps. Starting with the top left, we have the Bazaar Arena map. The top right, we have the Oasis Arena map. And the bottom, we have our Desert Arena map. Let's take a quick look at a video that encapsulates all 3. All right, the first map that we're looking at now is the Bazaar Arena. Now, we really wanted to push a marketplace full of life. And the moment you get in this map, you'll notice tons of shops, tons of houses, and a lot of people buying goods. And it really feels energetic. We wanted to stick with a warm color palette, which is why you'll notice a lot of that orange cobblestone from the jungles of Sky Temple. I think it really gives this map a warm, inviting, welcoming feeling. The second map that you're seeing come from the top now is the Oasis Arena map. And we wanted to push a similar theme and a similar story, that theme of life, but in a more natural sense. And so instead of seeing houses and shops and civilians, you're going to see large clusters of palm trees and tons of grass and tons of bushes. And what's interesting about this map is as soon as you get in there, it doesn't feel like you're laning at all on these roads. It feels like you're in this dense jungle, and it's a really awesome feeling, kind of like, reminds me of World of Warcraft a little bit. This is also the only temple arena map that utilizes the aqueduct system that lines the top of the map. And I think it kind of goes well with the plants. It feeds into the ground and feeds into the plants a little bit. Now the map that you're seeing come from the top now is our desert arena map. And our design philosophy for this map kind of flipped 180. We really didn't want a whole lot of life. So instead, you'll see plants and you'll see some birds and scarabs getting around, but largely the life will come from the spectators watching from the grandstands. And honestly, what we're left with is this kind of desolate sands vibe. But don't get me wrong, this map is still a lot of fun to play on, and it's still very energetic. That's about going to wrap up our in-depth look at the arena maps. I've had an awesome time showing you these videos and telling you a few stories about our development process. Just thank you guys so much for being here. I really hope you all enjoy playing these maps as much as we've enjoyed making them for you. Thank you guys for being here. Whether you're here with us at BlizzCon 2015 or you're watching from home, we really appreciate it. Thank you guys. I'd like to take this moment to open up the panel for some Q&A.
Hi guys, I'm Cherub from World of Warcraft, and I've been playing Heroes of the Storm since 2013 BlizzCon. I love everything you guys are doing with maps, but I'm wondering if we're going to get a PvP World of Warcraft map as a Battlegrounds.
Absolutely. It's really just more of a matter of time. We intend, this is our first year releasing Heroes of the Storm. And I think we're intending to release lots of content for many years to come. And we intend to hit all of our different game franchises.
Hello, Beltru for the win on Twitter. And as a follow-up question to her, I would like to suggest old school Alterac Valley as a new battleground for Heroes of the Storm.
That's a very cool idea. We definitely want to explore more things like that. Yeah, we'll take that and discuss more.
Give us time.
Thank you.
How's it going? In the new map, the Towers of Doom, there is a teleporter that appears late in the game, and I always want to know what things in testing prompted you to add that teleporter?
So when we created Towers of Doom, we noticed there was a kind of a weird issue that would happen about that stage in the game. It's around 12 minutes, depending on how the events are working. But if the enemy team is being very successful and they've locked you kind of into your base by owning two of the structures on your side, and then the altars spawn, I wanted you to have an opportunity to still contest those altars without having to run through tight choke points. So I wanted to add another vehicle for you to use to travel to the middle of the map to contest the altars.
When I think Johanna came out at the same time, I was playing Diablo 3, but there was the Eternal Battlegrounds map came out, and it was really exciting because it was this tie-in with Diablo. Will there be any additional maps that kind of tie into the other franchises? Like, I'd be really excited to see a StarCraft-themed map released kind of around Legacy of the Void.
Yeah, we intend to release all maps for all franchises eventually. And basically, we're just looking for, it takes a little bit of time to develop them. Every franchise, we take a little slower just because we want to make sure we hit all the expectations our players have for those battlegrounds. So I would always just look for the future. This is the first year for us, and we will just keep producing more.
Hello. My question is about Lost Vikings, Abathur, and Cho'Gall. How are they gonna be picked in Arena?
Currently, we allow Lost Viking, but Cho'Gall is disabled. We are still trying to figure out how. Yes, it's a hard problem for us to solve. We are still trying to figure out how to allow a Cho'Gall in arena mode.
Hi. I was just wondering, are you guys planning on adding any more major Warcraft characters? Maybe Archmage Khadgar? Anyone particular like that?
Sure, that's a more question for hero designer, but I'm pretty sure they are pretty excited about that idea. They must be like thinking about it, and they have a lot of new hero planned already. I think that must be one of them.
Good afternoon. So my question is, do you plan on adding more future character interaction that doesn't revolve around go to a healing well or I'll fight you after this battle?
What's his question?
I'm sorry, could you ask that again? I guess I missed part of that.
I was wondering if you're going to add more character interaction. Like, if you have a group of 5 people and, you know, they're talking on their mics, it's a good time. But it feels nicer when the characters themselves interact. Like, let's say someone gets a kill and Diablo's like, oh, that's good for a human, or something of that variety.
All right, yeah, that's a great, that's something that we're always developing. We always want to embellish that kind of interaction between the characters based on the audio. Towers of Doom is actually a really good example. We actually have the Nexus Lords are taunting each other during the battle, which is something we've never really done before, but I personally love that idea of getting more interaction with the sound, with the characters. I think that's a really cool idea, so definitely thank you for that.
Hi guys, my name is Jaime Chica. I come from South America, and Heroes of Storm has been hitting every MOBA out there. So everybody is playing and trying to get tournaments, and everybody really likes Heroes of Storm. My questions to you guys is, will you guys be able to do a Latin American theme on the arenas? Something new, something really flavor like Dia de los Muertos or something like that.
Yeah, honestly, I love that suggestion. That's such an awesome idea. I think we'll definitely take that feedback back to the team and talk about it, and maybe you'll see something like that come up in the future. Thank you, man.
I've got one question for you guys. Are you going to make completely destructible maps? Like buildings just destructible?
Okay, so that's a really awesome idea. I think I would love to do that, where everything on the map was destructible, everything could blow up kind of thing. But you have to realize that the production time that would take to get every piece of art to be destroyed on that map would be pretty phenomenal. But I think having a battleground where there's lots of destructible items, lots of destructible set pieces is an awesome idea. So definitely, if that's something you guys want to see, definitely put that on the forums, give us that feedback, and we'll see what we can do for sure. Awesome.
Hi, I'm a support heavy main. I just got done playing the demo. I didn't play none of the new champions because I'm just a heavy support main. But I wanted to ask, are you going to add more supports later in the future? Like maybe more StarCraft?
This is more for the a question for the hero designer. I don't have a detail about the answer for this question, but I can definitely take this back to our hero designer, like give them this advice so that they will definitely take it well. We will get back to discuss it. Thank you.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you guys a ton for being here. We had an absolute blast showing you guys all this stuff, so definitely stay tuned for more and Heroes of the Storm in the near future. So we'll see you guys later.
Thank you for attending the Heroes of the Storm Battlegrounds panel. Up next, from the arena, the StarCraft II WCS Global Final.